Another day, another story. A viral infection called human metapneumovirus, HMPV, is on the rise among children in China. According to Chinese state media, the virus can cause upper respiratory tract infections, like colds, as well as serious lung infections, and, according to state media, it's now one of the top 4 most common viral infections among hospital visitors in China. HMPV has been recognized as a significant problem in the at-risk population across the world since the turn of the century when it was first discovered. Andrew Easton, a virology professor at the University of Warwick in the UK, who studies pneumoviruses, told Live Science in an email, "That risk has not changed significantly over the last almost 25-year. Welcome to Tabo. Eminent channel." That said, it is always concerning to see a change in the incidence or pattern of an infection, Easton added. It's important to investigate potential surges in infection to pinpoint their cause. What is HMPV? HMPV belongs to the same family of viruses as respiratory syncytial virus, RSV, a seasonal virus that also causes colds and lung infections. HMPV was discovered in 2001, and, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, epidemiologist Eileen Schneider, the virus is associated with approximately 20,000 hospitalizations among children under 5 in the U.S. every year. Common symptoms of the infection include cough, fever, a blocked nose, and shortness of breath. However, these can progress to bronchitis, inflammation of the air tube leading to the lungs, or pneumonia, where the lungs' air sacs fill with fluid. The National Disease Control and Prevention Administration will establish a procedure for laboratories to report and for disease control and prevention agencies to verify and handle cases, state broadcaster CCTV reported, quoting an administration official at a news conference. Data for acute respiratory diseases showed an upward trend in overall infections in the week of December 16 to 22. According to an official statement released on Thursday, China is likely to be affected by various respiratory infectious diseases in winter and spring, Kan Biao, another official, said at the news conference. He said without elaborating that the overall number of cases this year would be smaller than last year. Recent cases detected include pathogens such as the rhinovirus and human metapneumovirus, with cases of the human metapneumovirus among people under the age of 14 showing an upward trend, especially in northern provinces. In a recent interview with the state-backed National Business Daily, a respiratory expert at a Shanghai hospital warned the public against blindly using antiviral drugs to fight human metapneumovirus, for which there is no vaccine, but whose symptoms resemble those of a cold. As international reports cautioned travelers to reconsider their travel plans to China for the time being, Beijing issued a press statement to address such concerns. China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said on Friday that respiratory infections tend to peak during the winter season. Reassuring citizens and tourists, she said, "I can assure you that the Chinese government cares about the health of Chinese citizens and foreigners coming to China," adding that it is safe to travel in China. When asked about the overcrowded hospitals and reports of the surge in respiratory illnesses, she said, "The diseases appears to be less severe and spread with a smaller scale compared to the previous year." She also urged citizens and tourists to refer to the guidelines issued by the National Disease Control and Prevention Administration of China. New Delhi. As photos and videos emerge on social media showing hospitals in China swamped with people amid rising cases of human metapneumovirus, or HMPV, a respiratory illness with symptoms similar to those of a flu, there are serious concerns of another health crisis after COVID-19. Beijing, however, has downplayed the developments in recent days, passing it off as an annual occurrence in winter. As international reports cautioned travelers to reconsider their travel plans to China for the time being, Beijing issued a press statement to address such concerns. China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said on Friday that respiratory infections tend to peak during the winter season. Reassuring citizens and tourists, she said, "I can assure you that the Chinese government cares about the health of Chinese citizens and foreigners coming to China," adding that it is safe to travel in China. When asked about the overcrowded hospitals and reports of the surge in respiratory illnesses, she said, "The diseases appears to be less severe and spread with a smaller scale compared to the previous year. She also urged citizens and tourists to refer to the guidelines issued by the National Disease Control and Prevention Administration of China. Over the last few days, there has been a sudden spike in respiratory illnesses across China, reminding people of a similar surge during COVID-19. The media in neighboring countries like Indonesia, India, and Japan also cautioned its citizens to be aware of the situation in China and take needed precautions. Hospitals in China have been overwhelmed by cases of HMPV, influenza A, mycoplasma pneumonia, and COVID-19. Young children, the elderly, and those with compromised immune systems are most vulnerable to severe symptoms, according to the CDC. Related, who should get the new RSV vaccines? Here's everything you need to know. Should other countries be worried about HMPV in China? HMPV is a serious concern, especially for very young infants in the first year of life, Easton said. This is also true of RSV, as well as seasonal influenza, or the flu. However, he added that the risk posed by HMPV has not significantly changed since its discovery in the early 2000s. In a statement released December 27, Kan Biao, the head of the China CDC's National Institute for Communicable Disease Control and Prevention, announced that the rate of HMPV among children ages 14 and under was on the rise in China, according to China Daily. This rise in cases was also reported by Reuters. However, the scale and cause of the uptick are still unclear. It's unlikely that mutations, or genetic changes, to the HMPV virus are the culprit behind the reported rise in infections, he said. But additional testing of the virus's genetic code is required to rule out this possibility. Meanwhile, China Daily noted that the overall spread of respiratory infections in China this winter has been lower than in recent years. How can we protect ourselves from HMPV? There are no available vaccines against HMPV. Additionally, according to the US CDC, there are no specific antiviral treatments for the virus. Rather, treatment for HMPV is supportive, meaning it aims to reduce symptoms and keep vital signs stable. According to the CDC, the infection duration is variable between individuals, but similar to other respiratory infections, including the common cold. To prevent HMPV infections, individuals can take the same precautionary measures they would for other respiratory viruses. HMPV is a respiratory infection spread in the same way as other respiratory viruses like flu and COVID-19, Easton said. We can protect ourselves against HMPV in the same way that we do for those viruses. The CDC recommends the following. Regularly wash hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Avoid touching eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands. Avoid close contact with people who are unwell. Cover your mouth when coughing and sneezing. Stay at home when sick. MPV is among the viral illnesses that the US CDC monitors continually, so any uptick in infection would become apparent very quickly. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel.